everybody. I'm Diane Mulligan, and I was delighted that Carol invited me to come talk to you. Uxbridge is so sketchable. You're so lucky if you live close to here. I don't live too far away, so I'm in Worcester, but I always love coming down to this neck of the woods because it's just very picturesque and it's a charming place for art. And so what I do is plein air painting and urban sketching, which are closely related, and I know there's other plein air artists in the room and people I've met at plein air events. Well, you tell me, what's the difference? What's the difference between plein air and urban sketching?
Paint.
Paint?
The media, yeah.
The media, okay. Any other thoughts?
Plein air is usually scenery.
Scenery.
And sketching's more like buildings.
Not too much detail in urban sketching.
There's more detail in urban sketching?
No, there isn't
There's
a
less,
lot.
yeah, okay.
Oh, I think there's more.
Yeah.
No, it makes you think. It pops like that.
And with plein air, it seems like you sit in one spot and paint what you see, and with urban sketching, maybe you move around more.
Okay, these are all fair. These are all fair answers. I mean, when I think of the difference between the two, plein air is, all right, first of all, we're speaking French all of a sudden for some reason. Like, we're going to go paint on plein air. I need a beret. And it's sort of, it feels very formal, like as a concept. You know, we're going to take our easel, our pochade boxes, we're going to haul all the things, and we're going to set up for a long time, and we're going to be in a place. And that doesn't have to be true. Any artwork we produce outdoors is on plein air. But I think when we consider it that way, and I know when I first got started, I wanted to work from life, and I kept saying to my husband, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna take my stuff out. And I set aside a whole day like, I'm making art on plein air, it's real. And I was completely freaked out. I got outside and I was like, what am I doing? Did I bring the right stuff? Like it felt intimidating. It felt like this formal activity. Whereas then I heard about urban sketching as a movement right around the same time. And that was a totally new concept to me that when I was younger and engaged in art as a young person didn't exist, because that's really the past 20 years maybe, which was the period of time that I wasn't making art. My day job is I'm a high school teacher, so that's what I do every day. And I'm not an art teacher, I'm an English teacher. But when I came back to art and I wanted to get outside, I heard about urban sketching. And it seemed immediately like the pressure was off. Like, oh, a sketch. Well, I can make a sketch. It's faster and looser, and I don't need as much stuff. And I can just be in a sketchbook, and I don't have to make fine art. You know, there's no capital letters involved. So to me, the difference was just mindset, to be totally honest. They're very similar activities, and it's just a slightly different approach. So the way I think of it in my own practice now is that when I'm urban sketching, so urban sketching doesn't have to be urban. You don't have to go to a city center. It doesn't have to be architecture. The way Urban Sketchers, the official organization, defines it as that you are drawing the world that you see on location. That's it. That's their definition, drawing what you see on location. And part of the distinction they make is you're not trying to beautify it, not trying to stage it, but to almost record it in a more reportage sort of way, like you're reporting what you see. Although, the more urban sketchers you meet and pay attention to, the more you know they're taking liberties, they're making art out of it. So to me, it's anything you do where you're on location and you are representing and responding to your environment, which is the same, basically, as plein air. One of the distinctions that kind of the true urban sketchers make is you're not working from photographs. So taking a photograph and going home and doing some line and wash is a great thing to do, but a real traditionalist would say, well, it's not urban sketching. And that's become actually very controversial in the urban sketching community, with people sort of forming camps and drawing sides. Are you allowed to finish your sketch at home or not, and all sorts of rules. I think what we all know is that there's no rules in art.
Yeah.
So there's no rules, okay? There's no rules. But it's simply drawing on location, indoors or outdoors. There are urban sketchers who love architecture, and that's what they do. There are urban sketchers who show up at sketch meetups primarily to sketch people. And urban sketching is great for that because there's other artists there, and artists stay pretty still when they're making art. So if you're trying to, if you don't belong to a life drawing group, but you want to practice drawing people from life, actually going out with other artists is great because you can say, well, I'm going to draw you, and stare at them, and they don't mind because you're all doing urban sketching together, and they stay fairly still. There are urban sketchers who draw a lot of nature, and paint a lot of nature. So there's not really huge rules. I think when people consider urban sketching, they most think of, pen and ink or line and wash, like watercolor. But at the urban sketching meetups I go to, people come with pretty much every media that you can think of. So a lot of watercolor artists, yes. A lot of people with gouache, especially oil painters who can't bring their oils because of our location, might bring gouache because they find it a comparable alternative. People bring pastels, they bring colored pencils. There are even people who do collage. So it's kind of everything. Yeah, it's the no rules in art, right? It's everything, it's whatever that you want it to be. But for me, these days, if I'm doing urban sketching, I've got my pink bag. I think this is a small backpack, by the way. Urban sketchers sometimes get obsessed with having the smallest kit humanly possible. Like, it's a badge of honor. How small can you make it? I think this small is fine. I think this is a small bag. And this bag is always packed with my sketching stuff, so it's like grab and go. This is the sketch bag. I'll show you what fits in here. So I have a sketchbook, which again, I've got a fairly large sketchbook because I have a hard time working small, and this way I can go across the page.
Oh, wow.
And do a pretty big sketch. Because when I'm working like in my studio, I typically work about 11 by 14 because I have a really small studio, so that's about as big as I can go. But this is actually not that much smaller.
It isn't.
So I like this size. A lot of people work smaller, that's totally fine. This is the biggest size I can comfortably hold on my lap. I have in the past used bigger ones. So I carried this one around the UK, and I thought it was great at the time. And then the next summer I got the same size and immediately was like, how did I carry this around everywhere? This is not good. And I went smaller. But in this format, you can go really big.
Yeah.
And these, so these are kind of the biggest size. They're very similar, it's just format, But I find, for me personally, trial and error, I've learned this is a comfortable lap size.
Is that 8 by 10?
This is a little bigger. This is,
When it's open, it's bigger.
yeah, it's bigger.
9 by 12.
It's not quite. It's a weird size. This is an Australian company, and it's like weird. Their sizes are all slightly weird. I actually thought this was going to be a little smaller because I have another one from them that was a little smaller. That's like, they call it the perfect sketchbook, and I agree. That's its brand name, and they're right. It's perfect. This one, if you're a watercolor artist, this one has Arches paper in it. So that's why I bought this one, because I am a paper snob. So what I do when I'm out on location is I've made myself a little lap easel. This is just a piece of coroplast, corrugated, plastic board that they sell at Michael's. And I have cut it in this way. Go back here. I've cut it so that I can slide it into my sketchbook And now I have a very stable unit. And I use these rubber bands because they're way lighter than bulldog clips. And so now I can hold this on my lap. And my pieces are all gonna stay together because my watercolor palette, it's in here somewhere, is metal. So I've only recently switched to a smaller watercolor palette. So this is quite small.
I have one somewhere.
Yeah, but it holds a good limited palette. So I have like a warm and cool of each primary and a couple of convenience colors. And that magnet's on here. Then I have a teeny little Nalgene, a magnet
With water in it.
with the waters in it, and it's ready to roll. Now,
Ready to brush it.
I have my brushes,
And then
no
you
worries.
drop it on the boat.
There is a danger of tipping, for sure, that's real. I have another version of this where I cut a hole for the Nalgene so it sinks in, and then the danger of it tipping is less. Because I did have a little spill in one of my sketchbooks. It was okay though. So that's my basic watercolor kit, and then what else I have in here? Because girls gotta have options, but I try to keep everything really organized because if you're sitting there with your stuff scattered around you, it turns into a mess very fast. So I have brushes. I have a ton. Realistically, I need this one. So
I have to.
this is like, this is 95% of anything I paint is this one.
That's tiny.
This one is this is a Princeton 10.
Good size.
So for inside a sketchbook, it's
For watercolor.
kind of big enough. And then I have a pencil case of pens that have permanent ink. So I have a fountain pen with waterproof ink in it, carbon black ink, and just some like microns. So if I want to do line and wash, and I know that anything in here, if I put water on it, it's fine. And then I have one with things that are not waterproof. So I have like some of these Pilot parallel pens, which are super fun, like fat nib fountain pens. And those, if I can only use them if I'm not going to do watercolor because the ink will run. The ink is not waterproof, but sometimes urban sketching means you don't have a lot of time.
Excuse me, so do you only do watercolor for urban sketching?
So I also do ink.
Oh.
Yeah. So like this I was sitting at the Natick Mall because I was doing a 100-day project to work from life every day, and I needed a place to go. So it's just the pen I just showed you, the Pilot parallel pen, makes a really fat line, and then I could just take a water brush and just make the shadows. And part of
I'm just saying.
it's what? Sorry, did I hear a question?
No.
Okay. Part of expanding from watercolor was I did a plein air event last September, and it was one of those like juried ones where you have to get juried in and you go and you do the thing and they're going to judge you. It was a day in September, and it was not like this September. It was dumping rain. It was about 50 degrees out, and they didn't cancel. And we were under a small tent. And I had brought my watercolors, and it simply was impossible. They would not, the paper wouldn't dry because it was so cold and wet outside, and it just was such a mess. At which point I realized I needed to be ready to go no matter the weather. So I love watercolor. That's my first choice. That's what I love to do. But what I found is my water soluble pens, they're a great alternative. They're really fast. So if I only have 20 minutes because my husband's not going to be patient for that long while I sit there and sketch, or when it's cold out, I can move them around for tone, but it needs very little water, so they dry fast. Whereas I mean, you could probably tell from here, like I'm not holding back on the amount of water that's in these sketches. Let's get a better one than that.
Do you ever sketch it in pencil first?
Yeah, most of these I've showed you so far are pencil first.
Okay.
Yeah, so most of these have pencil lines. But I mean, this
I always think.
this book is the Hahnemühle, and it's 100% cotton paper too, so I can do really heavy watercolor. Right, if you were using a sketchbook with like cellulose paper, then you probably couldn't go so heavy on the watercolor. But, all right, definitely ask questions if you have. You feel
Do
free.
you frame your stuff in something like that?
So
So.
well, what I do is, so my urban sketching, I primarily am in sketchbooks. It's just for me.
Yeah.
And for me, the difference between urban sketching and plein air is, I'm doing plein air, I'm going to be there for a longer time. I take my easel, so I do have a travel easel, and I work. Sorry, my watch is having a party. I work on sheets of paper. So Deb was kind enough to just return a painting to me. I'll do a little something, because she picked it up for me at the New England Watercolor Society.
Oh,
So like, right, this is, if I'm doing plein air, it's this size.
Oh,
Beautiful.
And this is gonna take me a lot longer than a sketchbook.
Right.
But like, I did this standing on that beach. And I took, a block of Arches paper, and I was there for several hours. So that's kind of, there's, actually, I can show you. I think I brought that
What
sketchbook.
were your water soluble pens again?
So I have a few.
What's the brand?
Yeah, so you can do, most fountain pens are gonna have water soluble ink. So most fountain pens, what comes in them will move if you apply water. These ones are, they're called Pilot Parallel pens. So you see they have a really wide nib, and they're really cheap. I don't know why, like for fountain, but they're refillable fountain pens, and you can make this huge flat line or really skinny lines.
Where do you find them?
These from Blick.
Like,
From the Blick, yeah. And then I have some really cheap ones.
So you can paint anything.
So like these Stabilo ones,
Great.
they're just little.
Use one of my pen.
They just have little tiny nibs like a fine liner, but they move when you add water. And I can show you. These are really cheap. They sell them at Michael's. There's millions of colors. So I have
That's what she said.
some I did with that.
But it's water.
So like this one of the guitar, that was with one of those cheap Stabilo pens, which again, they're like maybe $1 at Michael's. They're really cheap. But it just lets you loosen up that ink line and just adds some nice tone on there.
So did you add water to that too?
Yeah.
Selectively with the brush maybe?
Yeah, in this one I ended up being,
Big.
looks like I just sloshed it on.
I mean,
to
this
be
is
honest.
like probably.
I wasn't that careful. I was doing a 100-day project and just trying to draw from life every day. And a couple other. One of the other things, I don't fill out my sketchbooks in order. I like go randomly in the pages, which I can tell you why in a minute. But so that makes it a little hard to find things. But this one is with that Pilot Parallel pen. So you can see I could fill in big areas really fast,
Yeah.
and I could move the ink around.
That's what it's called, it's a Pilot Parallel.
Parallel pen. Yeah, and like I said, they're very fun. I've only just sort of come around on fountain pens. I wasn't sure I liked them, but that's helping convince me for sure.
The
Okay.
rainy day convinced you.
What's that?
The rainy day convinced you?
Yeah, I mean, just that I needed to diversify,
Yeah.
and I love drawing. I mean, I think if you're most watercolor artists, drawing is such an important part of it. It doesn't, there are people who do amazing direct watercolor who don't draw, who go straight in.
I wish I could.
But for most watercolor artists,
They draw first.
they draw first, and I do usually, so the ones I've showed you have been drawing first. So, all right, let me see if there was any more in my setup. So, my trusty mechanical pencil. But so you can see how, right, if I know where I'm going and it's someplace with benches, like Tower Hill or Old Sturbridge Village, I don't need to even bring a chair. So I've got my bag with everything and I'm good to go. The thing I always forget. Towels. So luckily most places there's a bathroom somewhere you can grab a paper towel. And I can just sit very comfortably and work with this balanced on my lap, you know, and the only downside for me is I can't get far away from it to assess how it's going. So I have to remember to do that. Because when I'm at an easel, I'm like, you know, dancing with my easel. But this works out really well. And the whole setup, like to make a little coroplast lap easel, you can buy a couple magnets at Home Depot, piece of coroplast at Michael's. And for a few bucks, you can have something that, in my opinion, is better than this beautiful one, which I was gifted. So this is a French lap easel, and it's beautiful. And like most sketchbooks don't work in it. So this sketchbook can't go in it because the cover's too thick. This sketchbook can kind of work in it, but because it's big, it will fall out. You can't use an accordion sketchbook in it, which I also like to use sometimes. And so what this one has going for it is that you can get a foot for a tripod. So you can turn it into a tripod easel. But this costs like $100, right?
Wow.
And again, a wonderful, thoughtful person gave this to me, and that was great. You know, it's got magnets.
3D printing.
But, you know, for like about $5, you could make your own that, as long as you don't need and you actually could get a tripod mount if that mattered to you. So,
What was it you were saying was an accordion something?
yeah, so you will often see urban sketchers doing like concertina books,
No.
right?
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And once we're doing some more hands-on stuff, I'll open this up so you can look. This one is this is not urban sketching, but it's sketch journaling, which I thought some people might find interesting.
They sell sketch.
Where it's just like it's a sketch journal I did of my trip. And it was really fun to do in a concertina format. So they're not urban sketches, but still felt relevant, so I brought it along. All right, am I missing anything from my kit? Yes. All right, so this is the part that we're gonna get some hands-on. We're gonna try out some things today. I've got a few things for us to try. I hope you'll be game and try with me. One of the things in my kit that gets the most questions when I'm on location, so it's what I thought we could play with today, is my viewfinder. So do you use viewfinders? Anybody like a viewfinder?
Yes.
Okay. So this viewfinder is one that I just made for myself after trying with a bunch of the traditional ones, some of which I carry around with me. Oh, there's none in here. They're in my tackle box. But I have the little gray one, and then I have the Gorilla Painter one with the grid that's little. But they just weren't quite giving me what I needed. Has anybody in here read Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain? Very famous book. So she recommends going and getting some plexiglass, right, to use as a viewfinder. And so I thought, all right, I'll do that. So what I did is I have 3 sizes on here, and they correspond to the sizes I most often use for my work. So this one is sized to scale up to 11 by 14. So like the painting that I showed you. This one scales up to 8 by 10, which I often use. and then a square, so that could be any size square. And so what I did is I have my piece of plexiglass, and I used a very permanent marker to mark. It's a marker, it's not a Sharpie. I think Sharpie, I'm not sure, would totally dry on this surface, so it's this Japanese marker that they swear can write on anything, and seems to be true. I marked out my compositional grid, and how I use this when I'm on location is I have a dry erase marker, and I find my composition as you would through any viewfinder. But then this is where traditional viewfinders fell down on the job for me. I could see something I liked, but I was still struggling to translate it to the paper with correct proportions. And I am not capable of measuring with a pencil. So if you are able to, like, kudos and props. I don't understand the pencil measuring thing that we all learn in art classes. And maybe I just haven't practiced enough, or maybe I'm hopeless at measuring. I just couldn't figure out how to, like, take that gray thing and, okay, here's what I see, but how does it fit on the page? And what I was running into over and over again was things didn't fit on the page. So I can show you back to, so this page, right, these were two different sketches. This spire didn't fit. So I get the whole drawing done, and the spire is cut off. And once again, the spires didn't fit, right? And these were a couple of years ago, so I think I've grown since then. But I needed help. I wanted to be able to more accurately establish my composition on the page, and I really didn't want to compose using my phone. So there are urban sketchers who will compose using their phones. It's another controversial topic, right up there with if you can finish your sketch at home.
They have grid apps.
They have grid apps.
Yes.
I for studio work,
Yeah.
I 100% use those.
Yeah, because it's right here.
Yeah.
When you're in the studio, right?
Yeah. When I'm because if I'm working in the studio, I'm working from a photograph, right?
Yeah.
But for me, when I'm working from, if I'm urban sketching, if I'm working on location, the whole point of it is to experience a place not mediated through a digital screen.
Right.
You know, that's why I do this, to be, like, grounded in the place and to not be relying on a screen. And so again, this is from a couple years ago, but this one I used my phone. So it's a way more than 2-point perspective. It's a street scene of a medieval street with a half timber house that's at weird angles, and the street isn't straight. There's a lot of points of perspective in there, and I really wanted to do a scene, and I knew I couldn't. I was like, I just couldn't figure it out. And I caved and used my phone, and what happened is, it's my least favorite sketch from this entire trip, because it's stiff, and even if I placed everything correct, it just, like, all the energy kind of went out of it, to me. I don't think it just didn't.
You use your phone to do what?
I took a picture and then put a compositional grid on it digitally, so that I could then know how to size it on the page.
I did that with the book.
And again, in studio work, that's great, I do it all the time, and I tell my students to do that.
Blow it up.
But,
Okay.
like, to me, these two sketches have loads of energy. They didn't fit on the page because I didn't know how to size them, but they're way more successful than this much stiffer, more composed painting, right? So I was trying to bridge the gap and then enter the viewfinder. So, and again, people see me doing this, and this is where I get the most questions from adults, from kids. People just come, what are you doing? So what I'm doing is I'm figuring out, okay, what's my compass? Oh, look at these lovely ladies. Okay, great. How do I want to position them? And now I'm using a dry erase marker. And this is exactly what, what's her name? Betty something in Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. This is exactly what she tells you to do. She says, get a dry erase marker. Now, it's not going to be perfect because you're going to move. You know, if I could attach this to a tripod, that would be great, but that's a lot of work. So I hold it up and compose it with my dry erase marker, and then when I put a piece of white paper behind it, the big shapes start to appear.
That's okay.
And it's only good for big shapes because there's no way you're going to be able to make it hold still long enough for detail, right? So it's big shapes, but if you can anchor your big shapes, so you have a couple of lines that you know, okay, those are anchored in, you can keep making sure you realign it. That's the hardest part. And it gives you a way to kind of explore your composition. So like one day, yeah.
So you draw your big shapes on your grid, but then how do you know where to put that on your paper?
Yes, thank you.
So where's that step?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
You're right, I skipped a step. So what I have in my folder are, because again, I'm not taking a ruler. I'm not measuring on location. I have scrap paper that's already measured that has little tick marks that match the compositional grid. And these are 8 by 10, 7 by 5.5. This is my little thumbnail. We have squares. So I have all different, the common sizes I would use in a sketchbook. So when I start a sketch, we'll do a small one right now.
Get a big picture.
I can just take my sketchbook, trace that outline, and put the tick marks, and then if I want to actually draw the grid, I can use this as my straight edge and grid it out. I have a template for 11 by 14 that's in my plein air kit too. So I've measured, because trust me when I say I'm bad at measuring. Carpenters say, like measure twice, cut once. No, I have to measure like 15 times, and I still might get it wrong. So I've already pre-measured them. I know that they're already the right size so that I can just put that on my paper and draw my frame. And that's what's gonna allow me to then say, okay, I now have my grid drawn on my paper. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Because that's the other hard thing about viewfinders is, like, I'm thinking of that classic gray one. Maybe some of you have that.
Yeah,
like-
and you have to hold your pencil up, or you pay, and then you've got this imaginary grid.
Right, yeah, the grid is completely imaginary, and if you don't, you have to be careful to slide it to the right dimensions or it's going to be skewed. And it has a place. I think it's really good for the initial walking around, like, what do I want stage. But for me to get it onto my paper, I just found the system helps me a lot. You can usually, it's really faint. These are not the greatest dry erase markers. On my littlest box there, I have the one I just did this weekend when I managed to enjoy the gorgeous weather we've been having. So I don't fill my sketchbooks in order. I usually start on random pages and jump around, and that's because the first page is scary. So I don't start on it. So like I went in Worcester down to Elm Park, and this tiny little box has my composition still on it because I never erased it. But it just told me, how I wanted to place things. Again, you can see this is Arches paper, so that's pretty heavy watercolor. It's not line and wash. All right. So so this is the one thing for us to work on. I've actually brought a bunch of little plexiglass viewfinders and dry erase markers, so we can try it for ourselves. But before we do that, we're going to do some more warm-uppy type things because
Should be interesting.
one of the challenges that I found when I'm working on location is staying loose. Especially if you're someplace where people keep walking by and they're like looking at you and little kids are coming, oh, can I see? Little kids will tell you what they actually think. All adults are like, that's nice. And you're like, I didn't even pay anything. You can only see my palette. And you're so talented. You can't see what I'm doing. Little kids will come up and be like, you left out that street light. So it can be hard to stay loose and just be comfortable. So one of the tricks that I developed for through my practice that has become a staple of what I do is blind contours to warm up. And when I first started, I did the blind contours on scrap paper. So I would just sit in maybe 5 minutes of just get loose, right? Just draw without looking. And I would do a series of overlapping blind contours. But then it became kind of cumbersome to carry around an extra notebook or extra pieces of scrap paper. And I decided I would just go ahead and I would just start putting my blind contours right in my sketchbook. So like this one, you have to, I'll come around because it's hard to see. So this page I did blind contours of the statue to get, because I honestly, I don't do a lot of like figures and people. That's not my comfort zone. But actually I find my blind contour lines of people, the lines are so much more correct. They're like, the drawing isn't correct, but there'll be lines where I'm like, oh, but I nailed that part, right?
I don't know what blind contours are.
Yeah, so blind contour is where you don't look at your paper at all.
No.
So you put your pen or pencil on the paper and you look at what you want to sketch and you don't look at your paper at all and you just try to go slowly to just follow the shapes. So it's not going to look right, right? Like it's not going to look, you're not going to look down and be like, amazing, it's not going to happen. But you'll sometimes get lines that feel really true, and it makes you look. So if I had a single like thing that I probably say, so I teach a watercolor class on Thursday nights for Two Bridges Art Academy, and if there's a thing I probably say so much my students hate it is like, when you go wrong, it's usually because you stop looking. Right, so if you stop looking at what you're drawing or painting, that's where you go wrong. So blind contours make me look closely before I do anything else, right? So that's what, like on this page, that's not the statue. I looked at the statue, and
Is that the statue?
this is right. So I did the warm up here, with where I just not the face because I had to just keep practicing that, but this kind of body, and there's some human shapes in there, but it's not a drawing of a statue. But it made me look at the statue really closely, so when I did draw it, it at least looks human, which for me is a win, because I don't do a lot of people. And so I started using that strategy more and more, and then I was in London and I was desperate to do, so I went to London, lucky me, I went 2 years in a row, the second time for work. And the second time I had one goal. I wanted to do an urban sketch of something iconic. Well, I got to Westminster and I was so freaked out because if I did it wrong, it was gonna, like, everybody knows what everybody knows what Big Ben looks like. I actually had to get it right. And I thought I was gonna quit, but I decided to calm down and just start doing some blind contours because that I knew I could do. And I spent about 15 minutes and I stood and I did some blind contours going this way. And then I turned this way and right over the top of the existing ones I did more. And I did that for a while until I felt that I was sort of centered and calm. And then I painted the Big Ben clock tower. And so this was the page that came out.
Wow, good job.
And I left the blind contours because I thought they add so much energy. And they don't look like the palace at Westminster. They don't look like the London Eye, but the London Eye is there, you can see it in those kind of circles. And to me, it started to feel like, oh, I'm responding to what I see, and it's helping me.
So did you draw that first?
So that was a really interesting thing that happened is I did all these blind contours until I felt that I understood what it looked like, and then I painted this without any drawing.
Wow.
Because I had looked so closely that I felt confident that I could paint it and that it would be looser, and I didn't want a coloring book. I wanted to have a feeling.
It's interesting.
And what happened, because if you've ever been to London, Westminster Bridge is one of the most busy places in London. And that's where I chose to draw. So I was standing with my little trusty lap easel, with my back to Westminster Bridge, my magnetic water cup magneted to the bridge, which conveniently was metal, my backpack behind me so no one could pickpocket me, and I was sort of crammed in as thousands of people were milling around. And at one point, I was putting watercolor and I looked up and realized I had become a tourist attraction. Like, people thought that I was like a busker or, and it was like, oh my God. But I had by doing the blind contours, I got so focused on what I was doing that I could forget that I was in this busy place. Like, I was just doing my own thing now.
I was zoned out.
And so I started using that technique more and more of blind contour and then no drawing. And I have a few to show you. So this one, you can't see the blind contour as much because I did paint over it, but like the Plymouth Rock Pavilion,
Oh, yeah.
where it was the same that I did a bunch of blind contours and then I painted without drawing. And actually I did a better job capturing the light than I would have if I had drawn it.
You have to stare at the other one.
And so that became kind of a go-to strategy. And I have a couple, so like, same thing, Codman Community Farm in Lincoln. And you can only really see the pencil lines up close. But to me, to me they add something. Now my husband, he doesn't get it. He's like, I don't know why you have like weird lines that don't mean anything. Okay. Well, because I'm making art, so that's what I'm doing. Yep. And yeah, so that's what I said to him. I'm not doing it for you. That's fine. Or like Bancroft Tower in Worcester.
Oh, yeah, that was
And it's just what I found, that the more I looked and the more time I spent doing this strategy, not that I did the drawing, but I did it as blind contour and then I painted it by feel. And to me, it really helped me stay loose. I'm not saying you have to do it, but if you want to try it, it can be a lot of fun. And the great thing about the blind contours is you already ruined the page. So who cares if the watercolor goes wrong, right? You've got a page full of lines that don't make sense to anybody but you. So the page is already ruined. You can be free to experiment now.
So you did the blind contours and then the painting over it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I painted right over it. And even,
Now, do you have trouble doing the straight lines of the building? You say you have trouble with.
weirdly enough, I think I would be better off as a painter if my lines were less straight. I'm good at straight lines. I'm gonna get to a page. So you can have a lot of fun with blind contours. Let me get to them. I'm looking for, so you can see this sketchbook, by the way, I made. So you can also make your own sketchbook. So I made this one. And why I liked making it is I could use two kinds of paper. So I have toned drawing paper. For all the times when I couldn't, I knew I didn't have time to paint, then I wasn't wasting really expensive watercolor paper doing a drawing. Because this is, again, I made this, so I did use Arches paper. And where is that other page? It's definitely great. Oh, okay. So, like this one, I'm not an abstract artist, you've probably gathered. I don't do abstract art. But I consider this an urban sketch. I was at a coffee shop. I had only 20 minutes. So it was an interior, which I do interiors in the winter, but it's not my go-to. And there were a lot of people, but I didn't really have time. So I did a bunch of blind contours. And then I filled in spaces with color and pattern. And you can kind of see some profiles in there and, some shapes emerging. But it was really fun, it was meditative, and it's not figurative, it's not representative in a literal way, but I got to have that experience of looking closely while I was there and turning it into an interesting page. So, it doesn't always have to turn into a literal representation.
Modern art.
And I have to show you my favorite blind contour one in here somewhere. All right. So this was my favorite blind contour one. So this is a carousel in, yeah, it was so fun to do. There's a carousel in Slater Park in Pawtucket. And it was a weekday. There was nobody there, but the carousel was running. And I said, "Do you mind if I just sit on this bench and draw?" And I don't care. So I sat, and every time the carousel stopped, I did a blind contour of whatever horse was in front of me. And what I ended up with was this series of shapes overlapping. And then afterwards, I painted some horses on top, and I did have to use photos, but to keep in the spirit of the thing, I didn't draw them first. So I did them direct watercolor. Of course, I got home, my husband's like, "Why didn't you make the red thread the pole for the horse?" Like, that would have been smart. He has a lot of opinions, that guy. That's not how I did it.
At least he's looking at him.
He does, yes. He actually gets very frustrated how much I work in a sketchbook. He thinks I shouldn't do it because then they're stuck in there. So, I thought what we should do for our hands-on part is we should start with some blind contours. Let's just try it out. Especially if you've never done it before, to just see how it goes and have a little fun with it. And just get a little loose and a little warmed up. Alright, so for our blind contours, whatever drawing implement you have is great. I usually have a pencil in my hand, and so you can use pencil or pen if you're feeling brave. Pen is a totally acceptable choice here. And here's the hard part of a blind contour is, how do you not look at the paper? And well, you just have to be disciplined. If you find it very hard to not look at your paper, you can put your paper kind of to the side of you and turn your body. That's a way of doing it. Or put your paper on your lap under the table. Okay, so if you need to trick yourself. If you're just a very disciplined person, it's not a problem for you. But thank you, Lisa. Whatever direction you're in, you can do this with anything that's in front of you. So the other artists who are here, fixtures in the room, the chairs. We all know chairs are notoriously difficult to draw. Right? Chairs and hands. Like, why are they so difficult?
Just use a pen.
So let's right? So difficult. I mean, feet, forget about it. Like, oh, why? That's what shoes are for. So let's take. We'll just say 5 minutes. Just a baby step in here. Don't look and just do it. And when your hand runs off the page, which it probably will,
Are these yours?
just put it back on
Don't chop.
anywhere and keep going. Again, you're not going to end up with something that looks like what you're drawing.
Souvenir.
And that is okay.
I think someone donated.
Your goal is to look closely and don't be afraid to go really slow. Right? Like really slow.
And we're
Yeah.
not lifting our.
And try not to lift, right, so try not to lift your pen or pencil. And again, if you run off the page, put it back on somewhere and keep
Yeah,
going.
just, you're looking
You
at
don't
whatever
take
you
your
want
pencil
to.
off the paper at all?
Try not to take your pencil, so it really helps to try to draw with your whole arm. Right? So kind of lock that wrist, right? You don't want to be just like wiggly wrist, but kind of lock your arm.
Okay.
And keep your pen down.
And you don't look at what you're doing.
And you don't look at your paper at all. You just look at whatever it is you wish to draw. Okay, all right, I'm gonna try to. Again, you can expect it's not gonna look like what you're drawing, but that's not the goal. The goal is looking.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the goal is looking.
I looked right at
You can. There are no rules. No rules. All right, I'm gonna try to.
Yeah, it should go.
I haven't I haven't gone outside much lately.
Kinda looks like what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
that's. a good
It's
point.
better than I thought, yeah.
I swear, sometimes I look at mine and I'm like, okay, the whole piece didn't come together, but like, you know, this line is just right, and gradually you get there.
I'm already done.
If the pieces sit right there, we really have that.
Yeah.
You can let them all overlap, and then it's just, you know, sort of a yeah, it's sort of spaghetti of lines. No, there's nothing like ruining a page to just like,
Yeah.
you know, just say, okay, actually I ruined a page and the world didn't end.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
You're-
better on the
you're
last
very,
one.
ambitious.
Right, in the end, it's all just paper. I know I'll hear people say, oh, I don't want to waste paper and paint. And I think, you know what you need to do is,
Never waste.
it's not, nothing is wasted, and, you know, just think like a golfer. They have no problem wasting so much time golfing.
I know, what do they get, just a hole?
They spend so much time and money, they don't feel bad about it, and they never end up with something to hang on the wall unless they win a trophy.
Just right off that.
The thing is, I always know if I look, I'll be like, oh gosh, so then I have a good incentive.
You don't lift your pen off the,
No, even if you zigzag back over lines,
Yep.
just keep it down.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I don't know.
Look at mine.
But you just put it back on and just let the lines do whatever they want.
Right.
They won't even be nearer what it's supposed to be.
No, often they're not, and that's the thing, because I painted over mine, you can't really see how much they're not. But what we're really doing is looking.
like that. It's always fun to do that. I've done this since high school.
Right, how many times have you heard in workshops and art instruction, you just have to paint what you see and not what you think, right? Is that not the most annoying thing that our teachers say? What do you mean? I am painting what I see. No, but we are painting what we think. We're substituting. So like, the minute you name something, oh, it's an eye, it becomes really hard to draw. If it's an abstract shape, it's not as hard to draw.
Okay.
All right, so how are we doing? Are we getting loose? Good. That's the goal. You're gonna get just loosey goosey. Now, I brought along. So I hope I have. I don't know if I have enough. Hopefully I do. I don't remember how many I
Well,
want.
look at mine.
So I have some little plexiglass.
It's pretty.
And I thought of a way to streamline my viewfinder. So I ran a plein air workshop this summer, and I brought like all the viewfinders I had, but we didn't quite have it. Oh, anyway, I learned from the experience. So I got these little 5x7 plexiglass. When you get this, there is a piece of plastic on it you can just tear off. I ran out of steam for peeling off the plastic. So I peeled off one side and drew a grid, but I left the other side on. So you could do me the big favor of peeling those off. So what I did, I picked this size because it's very convenient, and I knew it would fit on whatever size paper we had. So what you can do is you can trace the outline of the viewfinder directly and use the grid that's on here to make the tick mark, so you can draw out your grid on your paper. And then you can give it a try to hold it up and find your composition. I brought a bunch of dry erase markers from school. So, some of them are better than others, but I did the best I could. And we'll see if one of the benefits that we're sitting at tables is you could actually probably like splish down and steady it on the table. because it is a little, I will say, I mean, it took me a while of practicing to figure out how to hold it in the air and write on it. But you could kind of maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe. So let me pass some things out and you can give it a try. And again, if it has the plastic, the writing on it, that's just a sheet to peel off and I'll pick up the garbage.
No detail.
Who's gonna go? It's gonna rain.
It was gonna rain, and if they wanted to go wet paint sale, you had to permit,
Oh my God. You could do it.
So I do also want to invite you, if you're like waiting to take a turn with a viewfinder and you want to, if you want to thumb through my sketchbooks, you are so invited to do so.
And so it's like.
Clairvine School got a block of tools like that.
This was supposed to be, and you're looking at this.
So you go corner to corner.
Yeah, so like these sketches I did,
The contour drawing first, and then doing this over it is pretty cool. Because it's almost like a shadow.
Very nice. Are you escaping? Good. It's good to see you. Even though you don't have deviled eggs.
No, not yet. Then you know where to put it on. What are you drawing?
Huh? What are you drawing? This?
She had her tongue out for me.
But I can see what she means, like, you know,
I like how she made the book. She's so, that's good binding. That's nice.
She would have known the bottom part has to be further down.